to my kitchen. It's May, and it's hard to believe this is episode 10, and I feel like I'm growing up with you through these 3 months. So it's almost going to be 3 months coming to it, and I've been looking forward to this class because it is so hot outside. I know for many of you out there, and there's a lot of Canadians, and I know it's actually going to be a nice day, but here it's almost 40 degrees. So it's been a wonderful excuse to stay inside today, to do some cooking, and to almost cool off inside. So anyhow, I thank you all for showing up today. A big thank you to Jordan, who is behind Thrive and this whole concept of coming together on Zoom and bringing communities together during this difficult time of isolation. Here in Israel, where I am, I'm in Ra'anana, which is a suburb of Tel Aviv. We are starting to come back to life, so that should give some hope to all those out there that there is life after this. And the stores are busy, the shops, the streets, people are out. I was shocked. I went out on Friday, but everybody is wearing a mask, and they're taking your temperature outside the doors. They're making sure that the stores don't get packed, and it's a new reality. And there's a whole array of masks out there, whether it's surgical ones, handmade ones, visors. My son came home today, and are you guys not seeing a video, Jordan? Because I'm getting a lot of video. People are not seeing the video.
Let me check on that. On that.
Okay, so Jordan is on top of that, so you're gonna have bear with me and listen to me as I walk you through where I am. So back to temperature, it's smoking hot, so most people were warned to stay indoors today, and so that's always a good day for cooking. The menus that I made today were centered around the next holiday. Yay, we see and hear you, awesome. Are centered around Shavuot, which is coming up, and it's a dairy-filled holiday, which is personally my favorite. Any reason to eat cheesecake. And so we're going to be focusing on some dairy items and, of course, pantry possibilities, things that you can be making in your pantry. And my sister just said to me, is there anything even left in their pantry anymore? And I was like, oh, good point, Deb. I didn't even think about that. Maybe you've eaten through your pantry. But again, being mindful that these are still, we are in a pandemic as much as that, you know, some certain things feel like a new normal. It's not normal. I'm not going to stores still. I'm still having my stuff delivered, and not everything is always available. So I know yeast is not available these days, hence all the sourdough baking. And okay, let's see. The host is Spotlight is Selena. You still can't see, and other people still can't see. Okay, so Jordan is working on it because a lot of things are shifting on my screen right now. I don't see anybody, okay? But I feel you out there. I feel you showing up every week. But it's wild talking to a screen for the next hour. Okay, so back to the recipes, and I hope that the video is going to work for some of you very, very shortly. I just want to show you of a funny thing that, you know, I was able to go to the stores, and God, I was looking for some retail therapy. And we make jokes, you know, because I'm living with a social distancer, that, you know, he wants to keep a distance and make sure when you go out, wear your mask, wash your hands. Like, we have a whole drill of when we enter the outside. So I had these shirts made. If you can see, it says Shomer Corona. Like, there's an expression amongst more observant Jews, Shomer Nagia basically means, like, you know, we're going to stay separate. And so this I thought was a very fun thing, Shomer Corona. So this will go into the memory box of this period of time, because this is a real period of time that we keep telling our kids, you will know where you were when this all happened. So, and we will all get through this in a better way. We will come out with all sorts of different revelations, and I think fabulous new businesses are going to be coming out. all sorts of new things are going to be coming from this time. So my motivation is to get you cooking and doing some new recipes. I know lasagna sounds like an old, like 60s recipe, but I tried to lighten it up in different ways of making it new, which, you know, how many recipes are there really out there that, you know, we keep adjusting them and adapting them to wherever we're living, what we do have, what we don't have, what's in season. So so we're working with what we got and making the best of it, because I promise you no one will complain. Everybody is appreciative when someone makes a home-cooked meal, and now more than ever, we are doing a lot of that. So we're going to be making, and all the recipes are posted on Thrive, but I'm going to be walking through and telling you what I'm adding so you can cook with me if you want. And everyone see me? And Jordan needs to know. So write in the chat box yes or no, just to make sure that we're sailing. So the recipes are complete. I have not left anything out. I can't stand when people leave out things in recipes. So I find that cruel. So if you're gonna bother giving a recipe, and believe me, it's the highest form of a compliment when someone does ask for your recipe. So just give it. And you know, everybody makes it in their own way. They adapt it to the no garlic, no onions, you know, whatever's in their family, no gluten. But the generosity of getting a recipe feels so wonderful. And I'm seeing that online. The crazy amount of recipe sharing is so beautiful. And everybody is bouncing off each other and saying, I adjusted this, and you may want to do that. And it just, to me, warms my heart. And they, you know, someone posted a stress baking apron. I don't think it's stress baking. I think it's comfort baking or comfort cooking. And for all those novices who are out there who are really starting to get dirty and trying stuff that they otherwise wouldn't try, I salute you, because this is the time to play and to experiment. And again, there's no failure. So we are going to be making a mixed green salad, because whatever you got in your drawer, and I'm going to walk you through making an interesting salad and how to build that, with a walnut sherry vinaigrette. And I discovered I had walnut oil in my fridge. And I said, hey, I haven't used that in a while, so let's pull that out. But if you don't have it, we can find other substitutes for it, of course. We're going to be making a baked spinach lasagna with a roasted tomato red onion sauce. So I'm going to show you how to not use your stove and to use your oven. And you noticed last week I was cooking on a little camping stove here. We're not cooking on a camping stove. It's not Lug Bellmare anymore. But I'm going to teach you how to make a sauce on the stove and also in the oven as well. And we're going to be using oven-baked lasagna noodles, which I adore, because you don't need to boil them. You just need a lot of sauce. So when you're making sauce, you want to have at least 4 cups of sauce for this recipe, because that's what's going to the noodles are going to drink up all that yummy, delicious sauce. And then we're going to be making a blueberry buckle. And this recipe came way back when I was writing Panache Cookbook with an amazing team of volunteers from Montreal. And all those Montrealers out there, say hi in the chat room, because I'm sure you have friends out there. This recipe, I love blueberries, and they bring me back to summertime. They bring me back to Canada. They bring me to Vermont. They bring me all over the place. But luckily enough, we can order them here in Israel. I order them on frozen from a company called Nectarina. And there's something very special about it, because you can make an order and then it only comes in 2 weeks later. So, you know, you remember when you used to bring your film in after summer camp and you would wait 7 days? And there was this anticipation of waiting for something. So I wait for my blueberries and my frozen fruit to come. And you know what? There's something very, it's simple, and it's something, you know, it's something like also like eating locally like we do here, and we eat seasonally. And you can't make a mango strawberry salad here because you can never have both those fruits at the same time. But it's something you appreciate, and you learn to, you know, live within that box and celebrate when something does happen. So I'm at the end of my blueberry my blueberry stash in my freezer. So I'm happy to be sharing them with you today. And that's what we're going to be making. So we're going to be moving the recipes. We're going to be starting first with the roasted tomato sauce. And what I have here is Israel is known for the cherry tomato. You know that Israel created the cherry tomato. You should all know that. So I'm using a little bit bigger tomatoes here. You can use any tomatoes you want. Plum tomatoes are the best because they don't have as much moisture to them and they have more flesh to them and they're really flavorful. But again, whatever you got in your delivery, we're gonna use them. And if you have, I have some red onion here, but if you have white onion, you can use the white onion. Again, feel free to play with it. I have some cloves of garlic, which are here, which are now coming in season. So they're soft actually. They're so beautiful, like a good soft, not a mushy soft, like yes, a fantastic. And they come with these huge green shoots that you can chop them and stir fry. They're garlic shoots. They're really something fantastic. So what you want to do is take your tomato and you want to just quarter them or half them depending on the size. Again, the smaller you do them, the faster it's going to cook. And you know, I love cooking on high and getting stuff done. But you know, now we have a lot of time, so you don't need to feel that same rush of getting stuff done so fast. So, but it will make no difference for this. So what I'm going to do, if everybody can see, I have tomatoes, onions, and garlic, and you know, whatever you have, use. And we're going to drizzle it with some olive oil. We're going to sprinkle it with some salt, just a little bit. And the salt is going to draw out the moisture in the tomatoes. You just want to make sure that the skin is up, because what we're going to do, it's going to roast in the oven and we're just going to pull the skins off, like pulling their hats off. We're going to be using some dried basil. Here we go. And a little bit of some dried oregano. So I'm sure you have that in your pantry. And remember, spices do go bad. So if you haven't used it in a long time, you may want to put your nose in and make sure there's some smell to it, because humidity robs the flavor of your spices. So always buy spices in small amounts and don't keep them near your pots that are brewing and boiling water, because they will pull out all of the flavor from them. But you do want to keep them close enough that you want to use them. If they're too far and you have to dig through and move everything else before you're going to get a spice, I promise you, you'll have never a spice in any of your food. So make things easier for yourself and keep things accessible, but don't keep them, you know, straight on your stove, because then they will take all the flavor. Okay, so I'm putting this into the oven. It's as simple as this, a preheated oven. My oven is at 400 degrees. In 400 degrees here, well, actually in Canada, it's 400 degrees, 200 degrees in Israel, and we're just gonna let that go. And that's something, when you're making sauce, make a lot of it, and you could always freeze it, and you love yourself for having it. And it's just as fast as making it yourself as opening a bottle. You will see, and you'll also develop a taste that you don't want to eat bottled sauce anymore. So that's going to go away, and we're going to work on making the lasagna, because I want to get that into the oven. I only have an hour with you guys, so we have to show a beginning and an end. And I did the sauce beforehand, so that's the sauce that we're going to be using as we build our lasagna. So when you think of lasagna, you think of noodles, you think of tomato sauce, you think of cheese, you could maybe have vegetables, mushrooms, other things. You can have just a mushroom lasagna, you can have a meat lasagna. Today we're going to be doing a dairy lasagna, and we're going to be using cottage cheese as our filler. And if you don't have cottage cheese and you have ricotta cheese, use ricotta cheese. If you don't have, if you only have a little bit of cottage cheese and only a little bit of ricotta cheese, you can use that as well. It's very, very forgiving. And whatever percentage, I got calls today of 2%, 4%. Obviously, the more higher percent, the richer it will be. But there's no compromise in this, promise you. So I'm using some regular cottage cheese. I have a mixture of 3% and 5%, and Israelis are crazy for cottage cheese, and the cottage cheese here is really fantastic. If you have the pressed cottage cheese, also called farmer's cheese, you can be using that as well. And that's also a very popular item as we come up to Shavuot, like making cheesecakes with and blintzes and all those yummy things. So to make the filling, I'm going to put my cottage cheese in, and You don't need to strain it or anything like that. We're going to be adding 1 egg into it, and the egg is 1 large egg, and it's at room temperature, so it will blend faster, and we're going to see that with our baking when we get onto the blueberry waffle. So I have 1 egg, mixing that in with the cottage cheese, and I'm going to give you the amounts just for those who don't have the recipes. The spinach mixture is 1.5 cups of cottage cheese and 1 large egg, and I'm beating that together. And then I'm going to be adding my frozen spinach. And here in Israel, we have these pellets of frozen spinach, which is amazing because they come in these balls. And what you want to do is you want to defrost them, and then you just squeeze out the water. So this is what I was left with. It's about 1/3 cup, and you just want to really get that water out. And you can always save all that water for like a minestrone soup if you're having, but it has to make sure that the greens are dry. Otherwise, it's going to make your lasagna very soupy. So if you didn't have spinach, you can be using kale, you can be using Swiss chard, you can be using beet greens. You really, you can forage through whatever your fruit store or whatever your yard has. And green is good. Green is life. Green makes you feel like it's springtime and you're getting through this. And I really believe when things are green, you want to eat them. So if you don't like how something looks, you're not going to eat it no matter how good it is. So I'm adding my spinach, which has been pressed, and I used 4 pellets. And often with spinach, what I like to season it with is nutmeg. And nutmeg is a great flavor. If I can find my nutmeg right now, here's my nutmeg. And it comes from a nut. And you can also buy it as a flat spice, but it's way better when you can grind your own spices. So this is what I have. It's called the microplane. And you can grate garlic on it, lemon zest, Parmesan cheese, which we're going to be using. And what you want to do is just give it a little bit of, whoopsies, not go. That you don't want to do. You don't want to put the whole nutmeg in like I just did. Just dry it off. That's why I wear an apron, because I am a schmutz. I get messy, but that's part of the playfulness of it. If you don't want to get dirty, it's hard, but you know what? We're in the season of rubber gloves. So if that's your comfort zone, you wear rubber gloves, whatever it takes to get you in the kitchen. I happen to like to get a little bit more dirty. So you notice I did a very, very little bit because nutmeg goes a long way. I think I've had this nut for like over a year. So I'm constantly just giving it a little zest, and then you have it's much more aromatic, and it adds that je ne sais pas quoi, something inside of it. So we are going to mix this up. We're going to put a little bit of salt because salt is our friend, but your cottage cheese may have been salty, so make sure that you taste that beforehand. And of course, some freshly ground pepper, which I adore. And quality in, quality out, just like our nutmeg, that you want to grind as much as you can from fresh spices, and that will really pop your flavor. So our egg is actually the glue of the filling. And that's important. But if you really are not having eggs, you can make a flax egg if you want, which you have to remember Steffi, who is helping me here, she is a big flax egg eater. And so what did she do? I think she did 2 tablespoons of ground up flaxseed to 1 tablespoon of water, or it could be the other way around. You may want to Google that. But that's another option. Or you could just omit it and just make sure you drain your cottage cheese so it's not as watery, okay? So there's our beautiful filling. Now at this point, if you had any extra pesto in your fridge and you wanted to get rid of it, you can throw some pesto in there. Other flavors that have strong flavors, because that's what's going to give a really, it's to the base of our lasagna. So my house is smelling amazing, by the way. Anytime you put the onions, tomatoes, and garlic in an oven, well, you could sell your house 3 times over. Really, really fantastic. So when you're making a lasagna, really it's a wonderful thing to do with kids because it is so forgiving and it's playful and it's creative. And so, really it's a time to let your kids engage with you because that's how they feel more comfortable. They try new foods because they were engaged with it. So it's a nice idea. So I'm using some lasagna noodles here, the oven baked ones. I told you I don't need to boil them beforehand, which is great because when you boil them beforehand, they're all over your kitchen, then they're sticking to everything, and then you're annoyed and you're slapping your whole thing together. Not good chi, not good energy. You need to put good energy into the cooking. So if you don't want to use pasta, which some of you don't, which I completely understand, you can be using grilled, you can be using zucchini, like you can roast some zucchini and use that as layers. It's important that you cook it beforehand because otherwise zucchini is full of water. It's going to turn everything into water. You can use eggplant if you want. Another idea that I did before was I did some polenta. And polenta is made from cornmeal. And basically what you do is you boil up 2 cups of water with a little bit of salt to season the water. And you gradually add in 1/2 cup of polenta. And polenta is corn, right? And some of you know it. My friend Eve makes it all the time, mamaliga. And it's a comfort food. It's super, super easy. I love the color. And you can use this. So I boiled it together and I stirred it like every 5 minutes in like a figure 8, and it burps and burps and burps. And then you basically pour it into a simple pan like this, and you don't even need to grease it. And then it turns into a solid. Mine's still solidifying. And then you can use this as a layer. It just cuts super easy. And you can pull this out, and it's still a little bit warm, but you can pull it out and use this as a layer in your lasagna as well. So that just gives another variation. That lasagna is, I know it's old-fashioned, but these are the new ways to present lasagna. Yeah, so I'm gonna put this back in the fridge. That's another idea that each of you can be doing if you want to shake it up a bit and use some of the cornmeal that was in your pantry. But remember, cornmeal's like flour, so give it a smell beforehand. It does have an expiry date, and it could go rancid, so be sure to check that beforehand. So whenever you're doing lasagna, here's my sauce. You want to, and again, sauce can be frozen, right? And especially if you're a shakshuka making these days, this sauce is a base for any shakshuka. You can spice it up, you can add cumin to it, anything. The recipe for this is all together. I've given you one on the stovetop and one in the oven. Basically, put the bottom, put some sauce on. Very, very important. If you just put a dry noodle on the bottom of the pan, it will stick. It needs a blankie. So this is what we're doing. I'm putting in my noodle, and feel free to break them, patchwork, whatever you like. Again, a really fun thing for kids. So we have one layer like this. Then I'm deciding how many noodles I have left in my box. So that will declare how many layers I'm gonna have of my cheese. So you can figure that out depending on the size dish. Some people like their lasagna thicker, some people like it longer. Whatever floats your boat, it really is totally fine. I have some grated mozzarella here. I'll put a little bit of grated mozzarella. Then I'm gonna put another layer of my noodle. And notice that they're green for a reason. They're spinach ones. They're not green because they're old. Packing in, again, more interest. And there we go. We have another layer. I'm going to put another layer of my cheese. And notice I haven't put any more sauce on yet. My sauce is buckling up the sides here because I put it on the bottom, which is great. But at the end, I'm going to smother it with sauce. So putting another layer of the spinach. Looks like I'll have enough for one more layer. Put a little bit more mozzarella. I even grated some Parmesan cheese. And here's the end of my Parmesan cheese. And just like this, it's amazing how much volume you get from a bar of good Parmesan cheese. Now I'm coming to the end of it, which you'd probably go, oh, just throw it out. No, no, no. We're not throwing out this. This is full of flavor. This is the rind of the Parmesan. You want to save this till you're making a minestrone soup or pasta fagioli that you want to call it. And it's packed with flavor. And you just boil it with all your other yummy vegetables. And you can eat it afterwards because it softens, or you can throw it out afterwards, but it's given its max to you. You have not wasted anything, and you've added great flavor to your minestrone. So we're gonna put back to our green noodles. We're gonna cover it again, and again. Give it a push. Here we go. Top it off one more layer. Here we go. And it's such a good feeling. I love emptying bowls. I love when I use up stuff in my fridge. And if you happen to have bought too much of your farmer's cheese, you know, or it's called pressed cottage cheese, you can freeze it. So don't worry. You can freeze this whole dish exactly as we make it. So you're ready for, you know, in a couple of weeks when Shavuot comes, and you will love yourself. You don't need to defrost it. You just preheat your oven and put it directly into your oven. From freezer to oven, and it will be wonderful. So you just don't want to bake it and then wrap it up again and then freeze it, because then it just things start to dry out. So you want to be mindful of that. Okay, so I'm talking so much, I have to pay attention. Here we go. I have my sauce, and I told you I'm going to bathe it in my sauce. Very important. I need all that sauce to really drench my noodles, right? Because my noodles need to be cooked by this sauce. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to give it a blanket of cheese. And I have just some regular mozzarella cheese. If you have fresh mozzarella, if you have provolone cheese, that's a great melting cheese. If you have ends of other yummy, delicious cheeses that you just want to use up, use it up. It will add great, great flavor. And I hate throwing away cheese. So if you ever find that you're not eating cheese, someone went to the cheese store and then it's staying in the fridge, put it into your food processor and grind it and freeze it. And then you can sprinkle it into quiches and other things. So you're not throwing away cheese. You know, it's just not necessary. It takes one extra step to just be mindful and to be considerate of it. So here is our beautiful lasagna. I'm going to cover it with a piece of foil, and because that was the way it's going to cook faster, and put it in the oven. So give me 1 second for the foil, which I seem to have forgotten. Here we go. I don't know what I just dropped in the closet, but you know what? We'll find out afterwards. Here we go. Cover it up. Stick it into the oven. Beautiful. Okay. So I still have another lasagna in me to make. Make sure you wrap it, especially here in Israel with the humidity, in a Ziploc bag, because the humidity is like, it gets into everything. Okay. So anybody has questions or anything, the chat box is opened. So feel free to ask questions, because your questions are usually someone else's questions. The next recipe we're going to go on to is we're going to make the blueberry cake. And I know I called it a buffalo because it's such a good name for a cake. First of all, I just have to show you, look at these gorgeous peonies. These came from the kibbutz, and they remind me of Montreal because they used to be in front of my house. What a smell. They're simply happiness. And if one thing I've learned during this, I haven't been shopping at all, but getting fresh flowers, it just, in your house, really, really changes your mindset. So, you know, I encourage you, if there's someone you can get flowers from, just a plant, something to watch grow. I find it so incredibly nourishing. And that's been a wonderful treat to have. So we are going to be making the blueberry cake, and I have my bowl right over here, and everything is mise en place here. So like the TV show, be good to yourself, and make sure you have all the ingredients beforehand, because nothing is more frustrating when you're in the middle of something and you don't have it, and you've worked so hard and you've already, like, you're invested, the eggs are beaten already. So it also helps to see what you left out, because it does happen. So if I see it, I'll go, oh my God, what did I do? So you may have a better chance. So the blueberry buckle is basically a like coffee cake, but it's packed with blueberries. So it's more like have some blueberries with some cake, which I think we're all looking for. I can't say this is the healthiest cake. I'm using white flour today because that's what I have, but you can definitely use spelt flour in this if you want to, or any other whole grain flour. But if you're not familiar with it, do 50-50. So you'll slowly get used to it. And again, all your whole grain flours should be in the fridge or the freezer, because they do go rancid much faster than regular flour. We're going to be using blueberries. If you don't have blueberries, you have raspberries, you have cranberries, you have nectarines. You know, mix the whole thing. It's really about the fruit. And as I said, that there's a batter, but it's really celebrating the fruit that's in here. It's not, you shouldn't be mining for blueberries. They should be popping at you in your face. The ingredients that I'm going to do half the recipe as I did because I wanted to make sure that you would see the final at the end. So I only had a limited amount of groceries. So I split it up in half. But I'm going to tell you what the ingredients are in full because you've got to make a full cake. So we're going to be using 1 1/3 cup of flour, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 6 ounces of unsalted butter softened. So 6 ounces is 12 tablespoons, or it's 1 1/2 sticks for all the North Americans who's lucky to get butter in sticks, okay? So 6 ounces, or it's equal to 12 tablespoons, or 1 1/2 sticks of unsalted butter at room temperature, very important. 1 cup of sugar, 1 1/2 teaspoons pure vanilla extract, 3 large eggs, and 3 cups of blueberries, okay? And you want your oven at 375. So that is equivalent to 190 here in Israel, okay? So we're gonna start. The first thing that you wanna do is I have my flour and my baking powder together and my salt, and I have my butter here, and my butter is super, super soft, which is great. I'm gonna put my butter in, and notice this paper is full of grease, which is great because it's full of my butter. And I'm gonna use this piece of paper to grease my pan. And my pan is right over here. Today I'm using a small springform pan. Remember, I'm only doing half the recipe, but the recipe calls for a 9-inch dish. And I'm just taking my paper and I'm greasing the pan. Very important, you need to grease the pan because otherwise it won't come out. So keep that in mind. But also I need to line the bottom of the pan with some parchment paper. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold my piece of parchment paper into half, and then I'm gonna fold it into quarters. Okay, let's see, I have like a little bit of a wing here. There we go. There's nothing exact here, so you see what I did? Quarters. It has to be parchment paper, not wax paper, okay? I know they look the same, but they're not the same. Take a corner and fold it up so it looks like you're starting an airplane, like you used to make in synagogue. And here we go. And then fold it again. Okay, so we're gonna go, this is as good as my geometry gets in my life. I'm gonna put it from the point from the center in to the circumference to the outside. Sort of eyeball it with your thumb. I'm gonna take my fingers, and you could do scissors if you want, and I'm just gonna rip it. There you go. That's as good as my origami gets. And I'm gonna line my baking pan with my parchment paper, okay? And that's important because that will be your insurance that your cake is gonna come out. And I have full confidence in all of you that you can do that. So my butter is so soft. If you can see, you do not need a mixer for this. You can just do this in a bowl because my butter is beautifully soft. If this was hard, it would be a different story. You'd have to put it in the microwave and hope that it doesn't melt because melting is very different than creaming, okay? So just because that's a very important distinction, baking is not as forgiving. So it will change the crumb of the actual cake. So creaming is room temperature and whip it up and get some air into there. We're gonna be adding some sugar. And if you're watching your sugar, you can definitely cut the sugar in this, but it's really not a sweet cake. But because remember, the blueberries could be very tart. Or if you're using a mixed bag with like cranberries and raspberries, they're not so sweet. So you need a little bit of sugar, but again, you can adjust it to whatever you need. It won't impact. But you do need to keep some sugar in there, okay? You can't substitute it with maple syrup. You can do it with maple sugar or bourbon sugar or coconut sugar, but when you start mixing, substituting liquids with solid, with more dry ingredients, it changes everything. So you can't, I'm trying to set you up for success. So if you're in the mood to experiment a lot, you can play, but really dry for dry, wet for wet, okay? Let's keep it simple. So I'm gonna be adding some vanilla. And this is my last bottle of Trader Joe's. So I need to show you my new latest experiment. I am forecasting that the next craze is going to be vanilla. And because there's no more yeast and there's no more flour, The next thing is gonna be vanilla. So you girls and boys have to be ready and go get vanilla beans. Vanilla beans with some vodka. Maybe you have some vodka in your pantry. I had to dig mine out. And it's basically 5 vanilla beans, and you split them with your knife. You open them up, put them in your jar with 8 ounces of vodka. That's it. And what do we need? We need time. And we have time. Thank God, thank God, thank God we have time. We're blessed with it. And every day, just give it a little bit of a shake. It's the race. It's going to take, it could be ready between, it says like 7 weeks, but really good vinegar, not vinegar, we're not making vinegar. Really good vanilla should be ready in about 6 months. So just give it a shake. And then when we're done, and maybe we'll still be doing this together, who knows? The vanilla bean, you take it out and you put it into a bowl with sugar and you make vanilla sugar. So I'm super excited about this. This is my new latest project, and I encourage you guys to do it too. So right now I'm on my last stash of my vanilla, and I'm very happy to be sharing it with all of you. And I'm going to be cracking my eggs. Again, my eggs are large eggs. I'm using them at room temperature, so they're going to blend in the party really nicely. No, I don't want the shells, you know that. And when they're all at room temperature, all your ingredients really, really play nicely. So mixing that together. Again, you don't need any fancy appliances, but you do need a good spatula. And you know I like my good tools, things that are solid, invest in them, because now more than ever, we are, where do I get my vanilla beans? I'm ordering them from a place in Israel called Nectarina, but great vanilla comes from Madagascar if you have a direct contact. But I'm sure, I know everybody's ordering everything. We can't order anything here. So try to find where it is and get there fast, because I really think that's going to be the next thing. Maybe someone else in the chat room knows where you can get good vanilla, maybe on Amazon. God bless Amazon. Amazon was here and then they're not here. So we're all waiting for Amazon to come back again. And we're all waiting for you to come back and forget Amazon. We want you guys to come back here. We need it. And it's, now more than ever, the tourism is down and this country thrives on you guys being here. This is what Israel's about, is about connecting all of us everywhere to this magical place. So it only works when the whole mix is together, with all my ingredients, all you guys here. So when you come, you're invited to my house and we'll have a cooking class here. How fun would that be? So we've mixed this all together, and my dry ingredients, what is this? This is streusel. That's not good. My dry ingredients is the flour and the baking powder and the salt. I'm going to put that in. Okay, and so far I haven't left anything out, which is a very good sign. So I wanted to showcase these gorgeous lemons that my friend Lori dropped off at my door today. She said, my tree is overflowing with lemons. And I said, I'll take some. So she was so sweet and left some at my door. And here they are. So ideas, if you are a lemon person, which I am, you can literally take one of the lemons and just do a little lemon zest into this as well. Because lemons and blueberries, oh my God, so fantastic. And if you find that it is too sweet, always lemons will counteract the sweetness of anything. So anytime you feel something's like, oh, it's too syrupy, just put a little bit of acid. And lemons are my best friend. I love lemons. And now all of you guys are making lemonade out of lemons and really dealing with the difficult situation. We're all in together. So I'm happy that we're baking together. So here we go. Mixing this up and just making this beautiful, it's a thick batter, which is okay. Here we go, everybody see? It's a nice thick batter, you can see. Again, you can use whole grain flour if you want to make this a little bit more healthy. If you want to hide a few tablespoons of ground flaxseed, you can do that as well. No one will know. So I'm gonna go get my blueberries because they're still in the freezer. And anytime you're bringing frozen, when you're working with frozen blueberries, you want to use them while they're frozen, because otherwise they bleed everywhere and they create all this juice, which is great if you want to drink it. But I don't want to drink it. I want my cake to be yummy and moist and not wet. So I'm taking my blueberries out of the freezer. Here we go. And I'm going to pour my blueberries into the cake. I have definitely a few left. Enough for a smoothie maybe tomorrow, because I'm still waiting for my shipment. Here we go. Look at these massive blueberries. I know they get them from Europe. Again, you want to be gentle because you don't want to make a purple cake. You want to have a white cake with spots of blueberry. You don't want to have a mauve cake. So there we go. That's all you need. Did I tell you that it talks blueberry more than cake? And really, let's celebrate the fruit. We're so grateful to have it. So where is my pan? Here's my pan. Let me move this out of the way. Here we go. My pan that we greased with the butter paper. See how it comes out? Remember, my blueberries were frozen, so it kind of freezes the whole dough, which is totally fine because you're going to see what I'm going to do. Here we go. Pull this right off. Great. Empty bowls. Another empty bowl. Hate waste. Okay, where is that cute spatula I have? Here we go. I love this from my pastry school days. This is such a fun little tool. Here we go. It doesn't do much, but for this, it does something. Here we go. You just want to push the batter. Just push it. Make sure it stays within the paper. Just push it. Remember, my blueberries are frozen, so I'm pushing. I don't want to smush them. I just want to push them. Here we go. Yalla, yalla, yalla. Here, here, here. Okay. There we go. Everybody see? Nice. And now we're just going to make the streusel topping. And the streusel topping is a mixture of flour. I'm going to give you, it's 1/3 of a cup of flour, 1/4 of a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 2 tablespoons of cold butter, okay? So I'm doing half of it, I told you. And what I'm going to do is you just want to work it with your fingers to make a crumb. You don't want to make a batter like we just did with everything to make it smooth. I want to make a crumble. And so I'm just, as I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to, and if you have warm hands, it will soften the butter a little bit, which is good. And it will just blend everything together. And another thing that you can do is you can add some rolled oats if you want to in this to add, you know, some more nutrition. You can add some chopped nuts, some chopped pecans if you want. That's another idea. And there we go. I'm just going to make this nice little butter, this crumble. Here we go. I'm going to sprinkle it on top. Great. And I'm going to stick it into the oven. So this is going to go into my preheated oven, which is with everything right now, and done. So you can see this is a cake that is also freezable. If you make them, you can make 2 at the same time and make the batter. Like I will have made 2 of these small ones together, and I'm not going to show you what the real one looks like yet because we'll just wait a little bit longer. You know, you can make them in little muffin tins if you want. You can make, but remember you have to adjust the baking time. Always keep that in mind. So I want to take out the roasted tomatoes so you can see what they look like. I'm going to put my blueberries back into the freezer. I'm going to check the time. How are we doing? 15 more minutes. Here we go. So this is what our beautiful tomatoes look like. And notice they have little black tops on it as they cool so I don't kill myself, online especially. They're going to cool, they're going to shrink, and then I'm just going to pull off the skins, and they're just going to top off. And then I have this beautiful liquid to throw it right into the zhuzher or your blender, and you have a gorgeous sauce. If you have any fresh basil, you can throw that into as well. But wow, the smell of this is fantastic. And this is something you can make batches and batches of it. You don't have to chop everything and saute or any of that stuff. So that's a really wonderful way. You can also just eat it like that, straight off the pan, which is, I've had no problem doing that at all. So the last recipe we're going to go on to is we're going to talk about the salad. And I wanted to introduce you to a new kind of, vinaigrette, because I think we get bored of our vinaigrettes. And I don't want you buying any vinaigrettes because it is so easy to be making salad dressing. So I had this in my pantry. I had walnut oil in my pantry. And I had it in my fridge actually because it stays longer in your fridge. And also in December, we went to Barcelona. And so I had some sherry vinegar. And so I was like, wow, I never get to use my sherry vinegar. So sherry vinegar, but if you don't have sherry vinegar, you can just use some white wine if you want to, or you can just use some white wine vinegar. And, you know, the proportions are pretty much the same. I'm just trying to introduce you to some different flavors. We're going to be using Dijon mustard, which Dijon brings oil and vinegar together. How long to cook the crumble as cupcakes, which would be better for us in isolation? Okay, good question. How long? Well, the cake is supposed to bake for, how long is it supposed to bake for? It's supposed to bake for 45 minutes to 50 minutes. So depending how big you make your muffins or your cupcakes, I would start at like 18 to 20 minutes and see how that goes. Because usually a muffin takes me about 16 to 18 minutes. So that's where I would start. And I love that because thinking about how many people you're eating, are you only serving for 2? Are you serving for 4? These are important things because you don't want to be wasting and you want to be efficient and you don't want to be in the kitchen all day because you don't want to extract the pleasure out of it, but you want to be good to yourself and build a system. And that's what to me about what a pantry is all about. I look at my fridge as a pantry, my freezer as a pantry, and my pantry as a pantry. That the more well stocked it is, the faster I sail through my cooking, and I enjoy it. And you build your pantry based on what you like. I'm not going to tell you to buy tarragon space if you can't stand tarragon space. I hate when those cookbooks sort of tell you this is what you need to have in your kitchen. I'm like, I don't even know how to use any of these things. So I would encourage you to take a recipe that it excites you, that wow, you start to salivate just reading about it, and then you're going to build your spice cabinet, build your pantry based on all the recipes that excite you and that you want to be making. Don't follow someone else's list. This is your own space, your own creative space. If you love the color blue, buy everything blue. Just because they say orange is the best, that's not your best. So it's really, really should be a very nurturing, calm, playful space for you. And that's how I look at my kitchen. So the ingredients, I have walnut oil, I have sherry vinegar, which is from my trip to Barcelona. And boy, oh boy, am I ever happy we took that trip. And it's sort of a lesson that if you can't think of a reason not to go, then just go. And we will be back on planes. I know it. It's a bit of a setback, but it's a lesson of embracing and allowing good things to come our way. So I'm going to have some vegetable oil here. The recipe is 1 shallot. So this is a shallot, everybody. It's a cross between a garlic and an onion. I love them. But if you don't have one, totally understand. Then just use a little bit of onion and a little bit of garlic. And if you don't like garlic, which a lot of people don't, then you don't have to, but I adore garlic. And I love these little shallots. So I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm just going to chop about a half of it into really, really small pieces because I'm not blending this. I'm not using a zhuzher. So I don't want to have massive pieces of this. And I'm just chopping it small. And notice I'm chopping it because my knife, I just sharpened it. That was something I did in Corona time. I had a sharpening stone and I soaked it and I pretended I was back in cooking school and I sharpened my knives. And I tell you, it's a world of a difference when your knives are sharpened. A, you don't cut yourself. And B, things just smooth through, go right through the tomato. It's like, as they say, it's a machaya. It feels fabulous. So I'm gonna put my chopped up shallot in my measuring cup. So I have 1 shallot, I have 1/4 cup of sherry. And what's great about this little nifty thing, it has measurements on it. So I'm going to do 1/4 cup of sherry vinegar. And this is important. This is the acid that we're adding to it. And then we're going to be adding 1/4 cup of walnut oil. Always remember to smell it first. Make sure it's okay. And walnut oil is very good for you. It's full of omega-3s. But you don't use this for hot, okay? It's only for cold because it will smoke up and it has a very, very low heating point. So only for cold, okay? And keep it in the fridge. What else we need? We're going to use a little bit of maple syrup, which I told you that I found a Canadian guy from the old Canadian Jewish News in an article that he's selling He lives in Ma'alot, which is north of here, and he's bringing in maple syrup. I was so happy because I was at the end of my maple syrup. Now, if you don't have maple syrup, you can use Ceylon, which is a date syrup. You can also use honey, but I love maple syrup. It's my Canadian pantry here in Granada. But you know what? Use what you got. Use what you like. I'm gonna put a pinch of salt, some black pepper, because you know I love my black pepper. Oops, we didn't put the Dijon mustard in yet. So the Dijon mustard is what's gonna make friends with the oil and vinegar. It will bring them together. Here we go. If you only have Dijon, you only have honey Dijon mustard, use that. Just use less maple syrup. And yalla, here's our salad dressing. And remember, when you're making a salad dressing, it's good for about a week because we have that onion in there. And keep a variety of salad dressings going so you don't get sick of eating salad. And you know, today, these are the salads that we have. I have some beautiful Boston lettuce. And notice I just took off a paper towel because I had spun my lettuce in my salad spinner, which I adore. I love. OXO makes an amazing one. And it's very important. If your lettuce is wet, your salad dressing won't stick to it. So it's very basic. So if you're washing your lettuce and you're going like this to it, first of all, you're ruining it. Have gentle hands, tear. Don't put a knife to it unless you're chopping romaine to make a Caesar in 15 minutes. But other than that, it'll all turn black. So you don't want to do that. You want to tear it. And also appreciate the beautiful shapes and the colors of the leaves. If you have a little bit of kale, if you have baby greens, you have arugula, you have spinach, you know, change it up every day. If you eat the same salad every day, I promise you no one's going to eat it. You eat with your eyes. So I have some yellow peppers, some red peppers. I have some beautiful roasted almonds that I roasted whole and then I bashed. I like the uniformity of it, the organic part of it. Other things in your pantry that you may still have, as my sister said, they may not have anything left in their pantry. Hearts of palm, and always buy them whole, don't buy them chopped. And these are really, really wonderful for a salad, and especially in a pinch, and you have to make a crudité platter. You can just take them out of the can, give them a rinse, and put them next to the carrots and peppers. That's a really good thing. If you have any canned corn, that's really yum. I love canned corn. Some garbanzo beans, chickpeas. In this country, it's like everywhere. Always make sure you rinse them because you don't want to be pouring gook into here. Rinse them and get out all those bubbles away from it. And then if you only want to put a few in, put them in a Ziploc and freeze them. And you can use them. You can make hummus with them. They're a wonderful snack. You can roast them, make croutons out of them. They're fantastic. Chickpeas are so adaptable. And that's what we are doing right now. We are adapting. We are working together, and we're finding joy in Corona. We're finding joy in our kitchens again. And again, like with any salad, you just want to dress it right before you're going to serve it. You do not need to, just because a recipe says this is the serving size, doesn't mean it's your serving size. So always add slowly and then toss together. The best way to toss, wash your hands and toss it together with your hands gently. Again, there's none of this. I don't want to see any movement like that. I want to see more like barely touching, hardly any movement. That's an idea for a salad. So I even have a beautiful nectarine here. This is the season of nectarines, but my family doesn't like mixing fruit in their salad. I love it. You need to know your audience, but I love, not a mushy nectarine or a green apple in a salad. Yum. It just gives a great crunch. It gives texture, and it's, you know, adds interest. So I got to show you what the lasagna looks like, right? Because I'm hoping it's ready. If it's not, I could send you pictures of it. But the last 10 minutes, usually I put it under the broiler to give it a really gorgeous suntan on top. But what's also very important about a lasagna is that when it comes out, you don't want to cut right into it in 5 seconds. You have to let it settle and give it a good 5-7 minutes and then cut it so everything falls into place. Otherwise, it will all slide off and it won't look like a square. It won't look like the picture. Not that that really matters, but once you've worked so hard, it should look like, have a shape of some sort. So let's take a look. Smells fabulous, that's for sure. Wow. So here is the lasagnas that came out, and you see it all raises up. It's fantastic, but it's not suntanned enough for me. So what I would do is put it under the broiler for 1 to 2 minutes until it just gets a golden, like the crispy edges that everybody loves to eat around, and then it will be ready. So I'm just gonna stick it under the broiler and continue that. But I'm gonna have to say goodbye to everybody. But I'm so happy that you came today. So grateful. I can't wait to get pictures, ideas. You know, it really nourishes me for the rest of the week, hearing from you and hearing that you're enjoying cooking, and it's fantastic. So before I leave, da-da-da, here's the cake. Thank you for reminding me. Here's the cake. Yours will be higher, and I'm just gonna cut out into it as this beautiful crumble to it. And my son just walked in. You can see all the blueberries that are in here. They're falling all inside as well. You can see. And okay, I can't resist. I'll have to take a bite. Yum. This is going to be the best thing for your coffee at any time of the day. So thank you for joining, and love to hear from you. And stay at home, stay well, be healthy, continue cooking. And thanks for supporting Pantry Possibilities. Bye, everybody.